they're edited so superbly.
Even though they're 2.5 hours long.
Even though they're 2.5 hours long, edit his own picadillos and his own, like, I want more in this movie. He never seemed to edit that, but then the actual physical editing.
But yeah, well, once he's got what he's got, when it comes to putting these shots together, is amazing. Yeah. So that whole scene it just holds you wrapped.
The first scene, which is, it's kind of like a mirror image, that scene, in a really unusual way. Mm-hmm. But this scene has so much going on, whereas the first scene is all about the dread and sort of establishing. Mm-hmm. This scene, there's just so much going on. There's comedy, there's a movie about movies, and then there's all these new characters you're meeting, and it's so surprising too, which is why we don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I was actually stunned at the play out of that scene.
Really? Yeah, because you really... Yeah. It's like when you throw a Nazi into a scene, you have no idea what you can expect. Like with Hans Landa, you never know what he's going to do.
Right.
And it's the same, there's a handful of Nazis, there's a Nazi in basically every scene. Yeah. And that makes it kind of that, it's like having a gun on the wall. Like, there's a Nazi in the room, what's going to happen? Yeah. Also, in this scene, who we were going to mention before, Michael Fassbender, is, as you know from Hunger, is in this scene, and he's in other parts of the movie, and he's also great.
Yes. You don't even recognize him.
He's not emaciated and starving to death in a prison somewhere.
Yeah, he's such a good actor. Yeah. Really looking forward to the rest of his career.
I know, and the American actors, almost to a number, are the weaker part of the movie. Like, he cast Eli Roth in it. Like, I don't know what he expects us to think. But the Europeans...
At least he didn't cast himself.
Yeah, at least he's not in this. Yeah. But the Europeans are just, like, every single one of them just brings it. Yeah. So, that's very satisfying.
And there's some acknowledgement of sort of American inferiority in a way, which is really funny for an American filmmaker to be playing with that sort of idea, the sort of European...
Well, an American filmmaker who's clearly fascinated with Europe and other countries. Like, there's that great line where it's like, I know this is a pointless question to ask Americans, but do you speak any languages other than English? And everyone
it plays into the scene so well. Mm-hmm. And then just reminds you of all the other things you've been seeing in the scene about the Europeans being so fluid compared to the Americans. Yeah,
there's like, Hans Landa alone speaks 4 languages fluently over the course of this movie.
And of course, since Tarantino has fun with language in scenes all the time, but this time he's actually having fun with the idea of languages.
Yeah. Like, so switching between languages is a plot point.
Is a plot point. Yeah. And one that's beautifully handled, I think.
Mm-hmm. And in that scene is when Brad Pitt, I liked him best. Yeah. And when it comes into languages. Yeah. We're going to be driving people crazy. We're just being like, there's this one scene.
As we're talking, you can probably get a sense that we both really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I think Tarantino always does this. There's just so much that you can talk about, which is, I think, why film critics tend to love him. Yeah. Because his movies are fun to think about and to, like, argue about.
Yeah, it makes you want to see it 3 more times so you can get the shot structure down in that one scene, or remember how the dialogue went. Like, I'm dying to see it again. There's so much going on in it stylistically. There's so many different tones, and that's Tarantino. The 5th chapter of the movie is called Revenge of the Giant Face, which is, again, a plot point left best discovered, but in this, we're going to take the giant face as referred to Tarantino and talk about
this. Which it really does.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he does have a big head, like, as in general.
Literally.
Literally a big head. Yeah, no one but Quentin Tarantino could have made this movie. Like, not with the revising history, not with all the stylistic choices, not with it being so long. Like, it's so crazy and so... I don't know much about... I really have been turned off to his work before now, and now I'm realizing the error of my ways. I have to go back and watch all this stuff. But you really feel how it's part of him and his vision and all the crazy stuff he just throws in.
Yeah, every time he can't resist these things, and sometimes they don't. They're not completely organic, but he is having so much fun with his sort of bag of tricks. Yeah,
most of them aren't organic in this. I'd say, like, anytime Samuel Jackson's voice pops up, like, what? Like, what? There's no explanation for why that needed to be in there, but it's just...
It's just a little detail that he couldn't resist.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something he felt like he had to include, and that's why this movie is 2.5 hours long. Though I don't know how you would cut it. I don't know how you would get this movie under 2 hours.
Well, it's structured in such a way that it is the sprawling.
I guess you could cut out the Basterds entirely and just leave it at that. Except for that one opening scene where he's lining them up, and then the scene in the ditch where they beat the guy. Yeah. I got a lot of enjoyment out of most of their scenes.
They clue you in to the fact that it's a very, very elaborate sort of prank movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't want to say that it should be dismissed, you know, because you hear prank
no,
or
because there's
joke
a lot
and you think, oh, you know, I don't need that.
Oh, but there's a lot of really beautiful stuff in there.
But it is essentially, because it's revisionist history. It's very comic.
Yeah.
So it is this really elaborate game he's playing about movies.
Yeah.
The reason that you go with it, even when he's not self-editing when he should be, is that he has so much fun and invites you to have so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I say what the last line in the movie is? I won't say who says it. You remember the last line?
Yeah.
The last line is, "I believe this might be my masterpiece." Like,
right. Which is what we're talking about. That it is such a joke.
If you hate Quentin Tarantino, that will just make you ball up your fists. But if you've enjoyed what you've seen,
there's so many ways he's having fun with the idea of cinema and like film critic as hero, you know, movies as weapons.
Yeah, literally film as a weapon.
Like propaganda movies. Like there's all sorts of ways.
Do you want to talk? Like, can we talk about the propaganda movie? Sure. Like Eli Roth made a propaganda movie that is seen in large portion in this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he made that?
Yeah, Eli Roth made it.
I didn't.
And it's just really interesting that it's not just the Nazi propaganda movie, it's a plot point, but you see it, you see a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting that it's like, I want to make a Nazi propaganda movie, and I'm just going to toss this in there. I can't argue with anyone who's going to call this movie a mess and say that it's not, it's not well formed, its ideas aren't fully there, like it's all over the place, but I just enjoyed it so much. I found so much richness in there, and probably because it's so well constructed in its individual scenes.
Right, in each chapter, like you might love one chapter and not really care for the next, but there's another chapter coming that's going to be different again. And there's one line that I really love, one little detail in a sequence where a character asks another one to wait for the cream. It's a restaurant scene, and I thought it's such a little fun detail. I mean, it's played beautifully by the actor. But it was such a fun detail because essentially a lot of these scenes are Tarantino asking you to do that.
Just wait for
these long setups for the punchline or for where is the plot going to turn because of this very long scene where everybody's talking to each other. But it's worth waiting for the cream.
Yeah. And a lot of times the cream is Chris Waltz, I find.
Right.
I cannot say enough how much fun it is to watch him in this entire thing. Like, from a first minute he's on screen to like the last thing, it's just it's great.
Du bist also der Judenjäger.
Das ist ein Bingo!
Here's my one question. Do you think someone who isn't as into movies as we are would like this movie? I don't either. Like, it's not even that if you appreciate good filmmaking, you'll like this movie. It's so obsessed with movies in a way that I think you have to be obsessed with movies. So,
and not in like not in a way with any real specificity either.
No, you don't have to get the references.
He's not talking about one movie.
Yeah.
Whereas there are a lot of things in Kill Bill where he's referencing very specific movies. This doesn't feel like that. I'm sure there are specific movies that I missed.
Oh yeah.
References to.
Tons of references to like 40s era German movies that we've never seen.
But it felt like more like a widespread, like if you love thinking about movies and talking about movies, then you're gonna really get into this, thread of the movie.
So we don't see this movie making any money.
Money's overrated.
Yeah, it's gonna kill the Weinstein Company, but whatever. Yeah, people are gonna go in expecting Brad Pitt beating up Nazis, and it's just not what this movie's about.
There's actually very little of that, although it is very violent.
There's violence, if you're in it for the violence. But obviously, if you've watched this far, and if you're reading our sites, you do like movies, and should definitely see this.
Even if you hate it, there'll be a lot to discuss.
So I really want to have a conversation with someone who hated it. I haven't talked to anyone who didn't like it yet. And there are plenty of people who did. To go see Inglourious Basterds, it needs your money. The Weinstein Company needs you to go see this movie and take all your friends.
Don't see it for the Weinstein.
Don't see it for Brad Pitt killing Nazis. See it for interesting, bizarre, completely unique filmmaking. I'm Katey Rich from CinemaBlend.com.
And I'm Nathaniel Rogers from The Film Experience.
And we will see you next time. My legs are really sweaty. 30 minutes.
30?
30.